Hey everyone, Chang and welcome to my channel. Now, today's video, I was inspired by a lecture that I was watching. Now, in the lecture, the professor was appalled that a student didn't know the difference between percentile and percentage. And of course, getting 40th percentile, they thought it was just 40% and they overreacted because they thought they were failing the course. Now, here's the thing. I was thinking about the professor's appallment and all of a sudden, the fact that the student didn't know the difference between percentile and percentage. And actually, that made a lot of sense because I was thinking about my own background in studying math and teaching math and the standard path that I've seen students take. Now, the optimal path that has always been sort of advertised is that you go with pre-algebra, then you go to algebra, then you go to geometry, then algebra 2 trigonometry, then you go to pre-calculus, and then you go to calculus. If you have any other room, then you try to go for statistics or AP stats, right? Now, that's if you have any other room. So if you get lucky and you go stats or AP stats, then you actually might have seen these concepts. If not, and you go the standard route, you'd be lucky if any of these statistics sort of concept is introduced, maybe in algebra 2, trigonometry, pre-calculus, or any of the nooks and crannies they might squeeze in a week or two because guess what? The standard algebra curriculum or standard geometry curriculum couldn't fit into those like small intervals of time, right? So if a student went through that and was not introduced to any statistics concept, then of course, once all of a sudden they go into college, which is completely different, they wouldn't know how to react to the difference between percentile and percentage. So let's just talk about that really quickly. Now, here's the thing. In, I guess you could say elementary school, primary school, middle school, high school, right? Most of the time we are graded absolutely. Now, what do I mean by that? Usually out of 100%. And whatever percentage you have out of 100 tells you basically how well you did. So if you got 40 out of 100, yes, that's usually an F, right? You got 70, that's a C, B, you know, as 80%, and so on and so forth. Now, we're conditioned to think that way. And all of a sudden in college, because writing tests is difficult, you don't know the difficulty or the performance level of everyone who's taking the class. All of a sudden, all the testing, the score is relative to the performance of everyone else. And we're just expected to know that? Come on. So let's just talk about that. First and foremost, 40th percentile. It doesn't mean that you're passing. It doesn't mean you're failing. All it's saying is that out of the entire population that took the exam, you did better than 40% of them. So if 100 people took the exam, then yes, you did better than 40 people, roughly, right? If 1,000 people took the exam, then you did better than roughly, 400 of them. That's all it means. Now, of course, there is a way to sort of guess your performance, guess your grade. And of course, it's based on the idea that students will fall under almost a normal distribution, and they will give you a lot of different numbers. They give you the mean, they give you the standard deviation, usually 1 standard deviation and 2 standard deviation. And of course, the population falls in between there. Now, I have a whole video, several videos about, mean, standard deviation, so on and so forth that you guys can take a look at. Fairly old, but still works. Now, here's the thing that you need to know about percentile in relation to how well you are doing and what it means in terms of a potential grade. Now, first and foremost, the most important is the mean. Usually that means it's at the 50th percentile. That means half is going to be on one side, half is going to be on the other. So if you are in the 40th percentile, that means you're in the lower half. So depending on the grade the professor gives, now here's the thing, with the 50th percentile, I've seen them grade everywhere from this means C minus, this means roughly a B minus, this means, I don't know, not really a D. I haven't seen D, but it's more like a C or B plus even, right? It just depends on the whole professor and how they decide to interpret or utilize the normal distribution bell curve, whether the test is weighted or whatsoever, right? So that's this whole thing. And then of course there's, it can get more complicated than that. But the idea is that the 40th percentile doesn't mean you're going to fail. It just means that 60% of the people who did better than you. So are there room for improvement? Definitely. If 60% of their entire population who took the exam did better than you, then you should probably study a little more. That doesn't guarantee you failed the course. Now, the other thing that we're talking about is 40%. Now, 40% is usually in relation to the actual exam itself. How much questions there are, how many points you're able to get, and in terms of how many points is available, how much did you actually get. 40%, so for example, let's just say it's out of 123 possible score, right? It's this number right here would create this ratio. This ratio gives you the total percentage of correct answer or points that you got in the actual exam itself. Now, does that mean you fail? In a standard middle and high school class, yes, it means you fail. Usually it means an F. But since in college it's graded relative to the performance of others, this doesn't mean jack shit, right? If you got 40% and it's a terribly written exam, no one knows what the hell they were talking about, and all of a sudden everyone else got like 20%, 30%, 32%, you did better than a majority of the other people. So that means that puts you in a very high range in terms of percentile, and that usually means that you did pretty well. So just because this ratio of the score itself in terms of 40%, right, doesn't mean you failed either. So this whole grading thing of college is drastically different from the standard that we normally know in terms of high school and middle school. So know the difference. 40 percentile, once again, is just you did better than 40% of the people. 40% means that out of all the possible scores, you got 40% of them. That's all it is. Doesn't mean you passed, doesn't mean you failed. No, you need a lot more information. And just from getting all the other information, then you can begin to assess how well you're really doing. Anyways, that's a lot of rambling, and I'm hoping that this makes it a little more clear, because guess what? If you've never seen this before and all of a sudden you jump into college and then you are, struck with 40% versus 40 percentile, or, of course not just necessarily 40, any numbers, right? It could be very confusing, and I'm hoping this clarifies it a little bit. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you in the next video.